Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with
Hello.
Izzy again, and of
Hello.
and of course I'm Caitlin. Hi, Izzy. Before we start to get into the topic of today, I wanted to ask you first, how was your week?
Ooh, my week. How was my week? Quite um chaotic to be fair.
Yeah.
Um I shipped all my member paints. Yay, they're finally out the door. But now I have to think about the next member paints. And we have my pre-order paints that I need to finish. But because of the weather, lately it started raining again, and then all my paints started to get sticky again. So back in
Really,
the
it hasn't
dehydrator.
rained here at all.
Really?
It hasn't, but it's been really cold.
Yeah, has been really cold, but here we had some rain
Hmm.
only at night, which was quite annoying. So I came back every morning to check on my paints, and then poof, they were super sticky.
Ah,
Yeah, so it's quite chaotic. How was your week?
so I have a very busy week this week because I have 3.5 drink and draws.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's been like it was like I knew I had Sketch Monday this Monday, which is in Utrecht, and that's once a month. And then I have Sketch Tilburg, which is something I'm hosting, which is gonna be on
Ah.
Thursday. And then I have like a new sketch group that I was invited to, and I've never been there. And they are doing their first session on Friday in Utrecht again. And then yesterday I also went like just to go figure out where we would go with Sketch Tilburg. So I went there and took some pictures, and two people ended up joining me. So there was like another sketch session that we didn't really
Ah,
plan.
that was my
Yeah,
question. What do you mean with and a half?
yeah.
But that
So
sounds super fun.
yeah, it is. And we brought Doggo yesterday. So we are finally teaching him to run next to the bike. So we took him to the city
Oh,
running
that
next
is
to the
so
bike. Yeah.
cute. He's so adorable.
So lots of drawing, and that's a lot of fun. I don't really have time for a lot else.
Talking about drawing, do you use mixed media or do you use one kind of media?
I'm very mixed media. I'm like,
Really?
yeah, I put all my supplies over my whole desk. I recently made this. Let me. I made so I'm showing this huge box that got all my pencils and markers, and uh, it's probably making a lot of noise. Sorry, but I prepared this like this week and putting it back.
If you're watching on YouTube, you should see my face right now because that case is amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Actually, I was looking for this like a really long time, and then I couldn't find it. And this is my only AliExpress, my only thing I bought on AliExpress because I couldn't find it anywhere else, so I bought it.
Can you describe it for everyone who's not watching?
Yeah, it's just like a really big box that has, I think, 48 little how is it called? Like little places to put your pencils in, and then in
Mm-hmm.
each box you can fit like 10 pencils. So
Wow,
it could possibly fit like 480 pencils. I
that
only
is
got it like
amazing.
a quarter filled with pencils because I don't have that many pencils. But yeah, just put my pens in there, and then I have my alcohol markers and my water-based markers. And this way I just have all these sketching supplies
Mm-hmm.
that I can just grab here and then layer on top of whatever gouache or watercolor I'm working with. So yeah, I'm really mixed media.
I love that you have so many different kinds of art supplies. Which brings me to my question. I've got a question for you. This is a question I got from someone in my DMs, and
Yeah,
I thought this is perfect to ask Caitlin because I know you're using a lot of different textures and media. But have
yeah.
you ever have you ever been influenced to buy a product, buy an art supply, and you just had to have it? You bought it. You use it maybe once and never again.
Yeah. So I hate acrylic paint because I feel like acrylic paint is like a waste.
Mm-hmm.
because you always use too much of the paint and then you have leftovers that you cannot use anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
if you forget your brushes, you ruin your brushes if you don't clean them properly. So I hate acrylic paint. I don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was just starting to learn gouache, I was so frustrated with gouache reactivating, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, acrylic gouache, that's so cool." So I bought acrylic gouache, and that's
You
of
bought
course
the
it's,
acrylic one.
yeah, and it's like the same as
Oh,
acrylics. And I think I opened one tube to swatch it,
yeah.
and then ever since that, I've been scared to open them because I'm scared that they will dry out, like
I
because it's
understand that.
acrylics, and then it's a
Yeah.
waste. So I bought
Oh.
those, and and I'm also with like I have all these watercolor brushes and stuff, and I don't really want to
Mm-hmm.
use something
Don't
like
use those.
acrylics.
Don't use
No,
those.
so I have this box with acrylic gouache. I'm going to give them to a friend of mine. I already know who I'm going to give it to. I'm not
Good.
going to use them, but yeah, I opened one yellow. That's all I used.
That is indeed such a. I did not expect this answer, but it's true. Acrylic is just if you're not into acrylic and you have, it's a struggle to use. I agree. It is such a waste. It is such a waste.
So for most of the art supplies that I buy and then don't like, I actually have this now and then. Um, I usually try them after like a few months or a few years again, and then
Mm-hmm.
I end up finding a way to use them that I like. Uh, can I give one more answer? I know one thing that also sure has happened to me.
Okay.
When people online are really raving about a cheap supply,
Mm-hmm.
and I try it,
Mm-hmm.
and I already have like a better supply. For example, the Himi Maya gouache. I am used, yeah, yeah, that one exactly. She's showing it. So I am used to Holbein gouache. I have used like Schminke, the professional gouache, and Holbein gouache, and that is
I love
such
Holbein gouache.
such nice paints.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the Himi Maya gouache, they're not bad, but if you're used to Holbein gouache, then it's
I
just
know
a step
exactly what
down.
you mean.
Yeah.
Yes. This
So
is
that,
actually the answer to my own question. It's the Himi gouache. Everybody
yeah.
was raving about it. I had to have it. I reactivated these maybe.
Hmm.
I don't even. I reactivated these more than I actually used them.
Yeah.
Because I keep trying it and then it gets streaky and frustrated, and they say they dry even and flat, but these don't.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh, it's a pain in the butt. But I
And
had to have it.
and also it's not like I work a lot on location, like I just said. I have
Mhm.
like so many drink and draws this week. And I don't really want to take this whole box with me, but you can't really take out a little bit and use it later. And with the Holbein gouache, like the tubes are not that big. I just bring my tubes.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
easy. And plus, you and I are both a kind of person that uses the gouache on their palette, let it dry, and then not washing the palette, just reusing it again. So
Yeah.
sometimes when I go out and I don't even have to bring my tubes, I just bring my full palette.
Yeah, I bring my full palette and then maybe watercolors. And I
Mm.
actually take like one of the Talents cups, you know them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That with the fresh paint in them. So I
Mm-hmm.
bring only white because white, I feel like if you don't have it fresh, it's
Yeah.
really hard to reactivate it. So
Reactivate. Yeah.
I just bring like fresh white paint in a little pot, and
Mm-hmm.
then I have the other colors most likely just on my palette, or I'll
Yeah.
just choose some
Exactly.
watercolor to mix it with. I actually also have been using the Holbein pen set. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Ooh.
Uh, and it's like 24, so it's dried like you're using
Oh, the
watercolors.
cakes, the round
Yeah, the
cakes.
cakes, the round cakes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've actually been really happy with them. They activate quite nicely.
I think I saw that in one of your stories.
Yeah, and
Maybe
then
I'm
I
gonna
said
get those
like
too.
in my stories I said like, "Oh, I am happily surprised by they are actually quite good. I expected them to be bad. And then the shop shared my story and was like, I guess happily surprised is a good answer. And I was like, oh my god, I was complaining. So that was
Well,
quite funny.
it's always good to have someone who's like a bit skeptic about a product having a good experience.
Yeah. But they are, of course, not as good as using your fresh Holbein paints. But
No.
they are really portable, and that's what I like about them.
Yeah, I like those too. This is great. Awesome.
All right, so I think it's time we get into the topic,
Yes.
which is production versus artistry.
Production versus artistry.
And this is actually really nice to talk about materials like this because, of course, something that is going on in a lot of artists' minds is like the quality of the products that you use and if you're making sellable art.
Yeah.
Because uh, if you want to make like a lot of products to sell, then maybe you don't want to buy the most expensive art supplies because you're using a lot. But also, if you're making things to sell, you want to give a high quality. So you, like, with light fastness and stuff, you really want the good stuff.
Yeah. Especially if you sell originals. Like I think if you go for prints, then maybe you don't have to have the best of the best because they're prints anyway.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, you don't want to do a lot of digital um, edits.
Yeah. And I really feel like I often make my best work when I'm using my cheapest art supplies because I feel like I can just work freely and don't care about the result and just try new things. And then when it's finished, it's on cheap paper with like the crappy pencils
I feel
and
this.
and then what I usually do is still I make prints about it. I just scan it in and clean it up and I'll sell the prints. But I never have original artwork that I want to sell because it's never on good paper with good materials.
It's the pressure of you don't want to screw up good material on your bad artist day. Like everybody is having bad days, and you don't want to use, for me at least, I don't want to use expensive stuff on bad days. I don't want to experiment new styles with expensive stuff. I don't want to waste my expensive paper for my crappy sketches. It's
Yeah, and it's really bad because I know we both have a lot of expensive art supplies. More than we can probably use in the next 5 years.
yeah.
And then we're not using it because we are scared to ruin it.
Yeah, every year I tell this to myself. Okay, this is the year I'm gonna use all my paper, and finish them first. Also my expensive papers and blah blah blah. And yeah, I still didn't. Well, I do use my paper now for swatches for my paints. So I use the expensive paper mostly because, like for example, Arches paper. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people have Arches cold press paper, so I think my swatches should be swatched on that paper too. So it's more of a realistic view of my paints. Um, but for my own artwork, it's like I feel sometimes that my artwork level is not worth the paper, and
Ah,
it should be different. It should be I, this paper should be lucky to have my artwork on it.
yeah. And it's like the paper is made to make the process so much more enjoyable.
Right.
But it just feels like. So today I went out to draw in a new cafe that opened in town. Because I wasn't
Fun.
going out to draw enough yet this week. And I only brought my expensive sketchbook. I have been drawing in my cheap sketchbook the whole week, and I've been really enjoying it. I've been having a blast. I'm filling so many pages, trying out so many new things. And then today I was like, okay, I've been using this cheap sketchbook and I've been carrying my expensive sketchbook, but I
Hmm.
haven't used it. So today I'm only taking my expensive sketchbook.
So now my question is, what is your expensive sketchbook?
It's the Hanne Moele 100% cotton sketchbook.
Oh, that
It's
one.
yeah, it's I
Mm-hmm.
think 20 by 20 centimeters. I got a square one,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's like 32 euros for 26 pages, something like that. Yeah, that's
That's pretty
I.
pricey.
It's probably my most expensive sketchbook that I have,
Isn't
and
the Etcher sketchbooks more expensive?
well, I bought the Escher Lab sketchbook like a while back. They were a little bit cheaper back then, and I
Oh.
bought like three at the same time, and then you
Oh
also get them
yeah, the
cheaper.
bundle. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
bundle is like a lot
It's
cheaper than
cheaper.
getting an
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but definitely I just looked at the site today actually, and the Etcher Lab sketchbooks, if you get them now like separately,
Mm-hmm.
the normal one they have with 230 GSM paper
Mm-hmm.
is 40 euros, and
Yeah.
they also have like their signature series, which is like 70 euros. I haven't
I
tried those.
know, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's also one of the art supplies that keeps calling me. Like, I want to have it. I want to have it. I want to have it. But I got a lot of sketchbooks already.
Yeah, that's actually one sketchbook that I was looking at, and I was like, okay, maybe in like a few years, but like I cannot draw in this.
And I think it's not even their etcher. It's not even their own paper. I think they use Fabrino
Really?
in their perfect sketchbook. They
It
got
might
two,
be.
the perfect sketchbook and the signature blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah sketchbook. And I think they're both using Fabrino paper. So then I thought, because I remember I was thinking, if they are using Fabrino paper, maybe I could just get Fabrino paper.
Yeah, I also want to get into binding my own sketchbooks later in this year, and then mixing up the paper. And then I was like, maybe I can do like that. I have a couple of pages of cheap paper, and then I can do my sketches in there, and then I can
Oh,
go to the expensive paper in that same sketchbook, and then do my like more finished paintings there. Uh, so that's something that I have in mind because I have a lot of
interesting.
good paper, and I mostly work in sketchbooks. So maybe I just want to take my really good paper and use it to make a sketchbook.
Yeah.
So what I also wanted to talk about, like this week, I've been really inspired by. I know I talk a lot about Sandy Esther. I talked about last time. Um, I don't know if it's in the last podcast, but I've talked to you about Sandy Hester,
Mm-hmm.
that she makes like a very quick sketches in her sketchbook, and she throws all the mixed media stuff on there. And I've talked about Art Chu, who really likes to make wonky art. And I've been trying to loosen up with my art and telling myself that loose sketches are also like art and worth
Mm-hmm.
making. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something, because we've both been to an art school. And something that is like a really, really big point for a lot of people is, what is worth making? What is real art?
What is real art?
And that really brings up the question, like, if you're just making a silly little picture, is that art? Is that even worth doing? How do you feel about it?
uh, Frustrated. I feel very frustrated.
Yeah.
Because what does society define a piece of real art, right?
Hmm.
Uh, is Mona Lisa art? Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, what's the oh gosh, what's the design? Shoot, I forgot.
But if you look at most like old painters that did like a lot of portrait paintings in like commission for rich families,
Mm-hmm.
that's like really commercial. Um,
Definitely.
and there's a lot of people that say your commercial art isn't art, because then suddenly if you're doing it for your job, then people see it as like not worth as much as art that's made from the soul to bring out like deep meaning and stuff.
Yeah, that exactly that. Plus, I think people are are living in this weird kind of limbo that art should be super expensive in order to be art.
Yeah.
You can make a big piece, for example, abstract art. Abstract art um, is a skill that not a lot of artists have. Um, for example, my husband just sees splashes of paint on a canvas, and someone else would see, they would feel something. It brings up emotion, and it brings the whole room together, and it's beautiful in your interior. Blah blah blah. But for example, if Noah does the same thing, it's not art. It's a baby who just splashes his paint on a canvas. But when
Yeah.
a big name does it, and there's a price tag of $1 million or €1 million, then it's art.
Yeah. That's definitely something that you hear a lot, that you see the abstract art and that people say, yeah, my niece of 2 years old can do the same.
Yeah.
And it's so I go to musea quite often,
Mm-hmm.
um, because in the Netherlands we have this little card that you can buy. And if you buy that card, you can go to every musea in the Netherlands a whole year for free.
Yeah, it's the
So yeah,
museum card, right?
yeah, you are buying it for like 50 euros or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go to one musea, the ticket usually is around 15 euros. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go to 3 or 4 musea in a year, you already get enough value out of your card. So that card
Yeah.
is really great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I went to quite a lot of musea, and if I walk through a big museum and I see the abstract art, like 99% of the time, I also feel like, this isn't really doing it for me. I cannot see the skill that went into this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really understand why this is here. Well, a lot of my favorite artists aren't really deemed artists by this museum.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I go to like the Museum of Volkenkunde in Leiden,
Oh, I
which
love
has
that
like
museum.
old folk, just like stuff
Mm-hmm.
from like old cultures or stuff from other cultures, not
Mm-hmm.
something that we are used to, and a lot of the old clothing that's in there. And I walk around and I get so excited and inspired to draw. And is that art? Like, it's just the stuff that was in those cultures, but it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful and it's inspiring and it tells
Mm-hmm.
stories. So to me, that's also like,
That's art. To me, that's art too,
yeah,
definitely.
even
Yeah.
if it was not made with the purpose to be art, which the
No,
big abstract paintings definitely were.
exactly. And I think that is also what makes art very beautiful, is that art is very, very personal.
Yeah,
I could see a painting and cry because it's so beautiful. And someone else would look at me and be like, it's just colors on a canvas.
and
It's
also like it is. I think somebody at the art academy once said to me that the best art is the art that, like, if your art is meant for everyone, then it's not good art. If you're trying to please everyone,
Yeah, that's true. I think that's true.
and I think there is a truth in that. If you're just
Yeah.
making stuff to really try and please everyone around you, then that's not art. But if I make like a sticker of a cute dog,
Hmm.
who doesn't love cute dogs? I mean, quite a lot of people don't like dogs, but then I still feel
Cat people
cat
don't like
people.
dogs.
Oh, but I love cats too.
Oh, ooh, you're rare. You like both.
Yeah, but I do want to own a dog, and I don't really want to own cats. Every time I'm around cats, I'm like, my dog is like a lot more fun to have than this
Right,
cat.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but if I make like a cute dog sticker,
Hmm.
is that art?
But that's a whole, maybe that's a whole different conversation entirely, because the stickers, I think it's art because I like art as stickers. But mainstream society Are stickers art? Maybe not. When you buy a frame in IKEA and it already has like a drawing in it or a piece
Yeah,
of or flower drawing or whatever. You buy it for the frame, but the piece inside, is that art?
it has been made by
It
someone.
has been made by someone, just like the stickers.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
like,
think, yeah, it's art. I would walk through IKEA and I would buy a frame. I'm like, I like the piece that's already in it. Maybe I'll just hang it up.
and that leaves like, I think that if you're buying prints, then you are buying like a picture of the artwork, or if you're buying a sticker, you are buying a picture of the artwork, but
Mhm.
it doesn't really feel like the real artwork. If you look really close at like an oil painting and you see all the brush strokes and stuff,
Oh, it's beautiful.
that's for me the real piece. And then if you go to the museum shop and buy like
By the print,
buy the
yeah.
postcard, then I can still really appreciate it, and I can look at the card and feel like, oh, that's amazing. But that doesn't feel like the art piece.
But wait, I understand what you're saying, but does that also mean that your own prints are not really art?
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like the prints that I
Ah,
sell are more like, if I get one of my own prints and they get all crumbled up because I didn't store them properly, I won't feel sad about a print that
oh
got
yeah.
lost.
But if your original got crumbled, it would be
But if
bad.
my
Yeah,
original got crumbled, I might feel really bad.
yeah.
But then I've been thinking about it like this. But then it comes to the question, what about digital art?
Ah, that was my same next question. What about digital
Yeah,
art?
because I really respect digital artists, and what they make
Mm-hmm.
is truly art.
Oh, it's amazing.
And actually, this has been the main reason that I haven't gone further into digital art, is I want to have the physical artwork in my hands. I want to have like the real piece. And
Yeah.
if I'm working digitally, it doesn't feel like a real piece to me. And I can
Mm.
recognize that it's art and that it takes skill and that people can make amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, yeah, it's like really weird.
Now I understand. Like you put so many hours in it, and then it's in the end of the day, it's just pixels on a screen. And maybe you post it on Instagram, maybe you don't, but basically everyone can take a screenshot of it, and you can put the two together, and they look exactly the same.
Yeah, it's
Other than pixel quality, they look the same.
yeah,
And an original art piece, you cannot simply print screen the brush strokes, the texture of the paint, the texture of the paper. It
and
is
also
quite
for me,
different.
yeah, for me, like creating art, something that is really important to me is to have this all these beautiful art supplies that are interacting with each other on the page, and the feeling of, oh, I'm getting like two different tubes of color and I'm mixing them together to get like the perfect color that I want to use. And this whole feeling and process of making art is also like really important to me. And with digital art, it's just like it's not the same. Maybe if there comes a software where you can pick the colors with tubes or something, I don't know. You have Adobe Fresco, but it wasn't really it.
No, it's not the same.
No.
Yeah, digital art. But then you, yeah, art goes further than just paint or digital. Architecture is
Hmm.
a form of art, I think.
Yeah. Something that we used to say a lot at the illustration section of the art school that I went to is, um, are we really artists or are we more entertainers?
Ooh,
Or are
ooh,
we content creators? Or are we makers?
that is a good question.
And if you're looking at us, because we both have like an art related business, and
Mm.
often when I'm planning what I'm going to draw, I also think about the products that I want to make.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely influences me in the type of work that I make. And then it really feels like, okay, but if I'm making like these big paintings that I'm just making because I want to make like a notebook design or I want to make a print out of it, then is it production? Or is it just like, do you get where I'm going? That if it's not the same feeling and deep meaning into the artwork as that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of modern artists are doing with the big paintings and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or with like making paintings that are really shocking to create like emotion with the viewer, and what I'm doing is just like I want to make a cute notebook design, then I feel very conflicted whether my work is art and whether or not I actually care if it's not art.
But aren't we circling back now to art cannot satisfy everyone? Like, if you can sell your notebook or sell your art to everyone who loves cute doggos, um, haven't you accomplished the goal already? Of course, it's art. To me, it's art because I love cute doggos.
Okay, but then often I feel like my own work is not art.
Yeah, and that's hard because that's a piece of imposter syndrome, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. It's just I remember we talked about you wanting to create art that has an impact on the world and do good and all those amazing things. Um, and maybe cute drawing cute doggos makes a lot of people happy, but maybe not on the scale that you want it to be, and maybe that's why it doesn't feel like art.
Yeah, maybe. Like if you make a really big, impactful piece about climate change and it gets in
Mm.
all the big musea and it gets in the news and everybody is like, yeah, this artist is right. We need to change climate and we need to change how we view the climate and we need to better the world. Then you feel like, yeah, I've made it as an artist.
Do you know Stuart Temple?
I recognize the name, but I'm not sure.
He's an artist, and he was one of the first who made the world's blackest black paint.
Oh,
Not actually the first one. The first one was a guy named Anish Kapoor, I
yeah.
think his name was,
Yeah.
and he licensed the Vanta Black, I think it's called,
Mhm.
to be only used by him. Stuart Temple was like, "Hey, that's not fair to everyone and every artist in the whole world. I'm gonna make my own Blackest Black in the world, and I'm gonna sell it to everyone in the world except Anish Kapoor."
I thought he made
So
the pinkest pink.
also, yeah, he made the pinkest pinks, the bluest blue. Uh, he made the goldest gold. In my opinion, my gold is the goldest gold, but okay. And he also made, I think, the whitest white recently. But he made like this huge impact on the world because it's not fair that this guy is doing that, so I'm making it available for everyone to have at a cost.
Yeah.
But he got in every paper, not every paper, but he got in a lot of paper. He got published. I think some of his work is in featured in some museums, even just because he changed the world in that kind of way.
Yeah, and if you look at like what he does, of course
Yeah.
the how do you say it? Like nothing changes about the way that he's working,
No.
whether he made the blackest black for himself
Mm,
or he used it as a statement.
exactly.
Like the process is exactly the same, whether you make a beautiful landscape painting or whether you make a beautiful landscape painting and tell a story about the world dying.
Exactly.
And then maybe one is art and one is a hobby.
Maybe, maybe. But circling back to your cute doggo pictures, I
Hmm.
remember you telling me about you're
Yeah,
working on
yeah.
a zine, right?
Yeah, so I'm working on a scene of how we adopted our dog.
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, I wanted to make scenes. That's one reason. But also, I saw that the organization that we adopted Doggo from actually has like a fundraiser at this point because they need to move and they don't have the money to do so. So I thought that maybe if I would make a zine, I could raise some money for the organization so that they can help more dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And then it changes the way that you look at the things that you're making. It really changes the way that you look at your own work. And it also is like you're, even if you're not making a really big change and making all the war in the world stop and getting rid of all the terrorists. I'm just saying something. You're still making a change. Like my boyfriend said recently that he likes to pick up the trash that people throw into the bushes when we walk with the dog. So he would
Mm-hmm.
go around, pick up the trash, throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
We would take like plastic bags to carry all the trash with us in the forest, and then we can throw
Awesome.
it away at home. And he said like, okay, but this getting taking the trash, it's not really making a big change. It's not gonna change the entire world, but it's still making a little change. And that's
Yeah.
also important. And if
Mm-hmm.
everybody would make little changes, then everything together is like a really big change.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's definitely something we can do as individual artists.
Yes. That is exactly my point. I understand that a lot of us want to make an impact with our art. Um, but baby steps. If every artist does something good with their art, then we as all artists did something amazing.
And of course, you can make like an art piece that shows dog dogs suffering or shows that dogs are living on the street. And maybe that's one way that some artists would make like a difference, that they are making people aware of this problem. And then maybe I don't want to make that kind of work and I'm just making like cute or funny dogs and I'm raising money and I'm telling the story behind it.
Yeah.
But my artwork is like very cutesy and not that heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, sometimes I feel like in order to be a real artist, I need to make like really heavy pieces that show all the terrors in the world. But I feel depressed when I'm making depressing things.
But why do you think that sometimes? That you need to have dark pieces to make an impact?
Probably because a lot of artists have been telling me that. Like, maybe this sounds stupid because I do know like a lot of really great artists that don't make really dark art. But if
Mm-hmm.
you look at a lot of what the musea are showing from newer artists, like modern artists, they are showing a lot of people um, who have really heavy work. Like we
Yeah.
see a lot of work that is like futuristic and talks about all the dangers of technology, but we
Mm-hmm.
have not a lot of work that shows how cool and awesome technology can be.
I think it's also a Western thing, and I understand what you mean. Like, do you know the National Geographic Photography Awards or prize? Um, the picture that always wins is either kids in war, kids in a burning house. I'm just saying something.
Hmm.
Kids, or last a couple of years ago when um, refugees were going on a boat to Greece and the boat sank. There were like bodies
Yeah, yeah.
washing ashore, and the press took pictures of it, and that one picture was picture of the year. It's always something dark and depressing to make some people aware. And I think it's some kind of a Western thing, because if you look, for example, in Asia, those art pieces that I see, like for example Japan,
Hmm.
is always so colorful and fun and amazing and wow, makes people energetic and happy and in your face. So I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, we don't live in Japan, so we're
No,
not
no,
sure.
no. This is just something I see.
And I do think like I go to Leiden quite often because I really like the city and the musea in that city.
I love
And
it.
you have the Siebold House in Leiden,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Japan museum there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because Siebold was like, I don't know who this guy was, but he went to Japan quite often and he brought back like maps and stuff from Japan. And
Mm-hmm.
he lived in Leiden, which is Japan's city of the Netherlands. And
Apparently.
yeah, and you have quite often like the work they show in the Siebold House is like really weird and fun and interesting.
Yeah, right?
And then they have this exposition about kimonos or an exposition
Oh,
about
beautiful.
cats, and then it's like you have all these artists making incredibly weird and interesting stuff, and I just look at it and I'm like, I love this. I'm not sure if this is what art school would tell me that this is art.
Our art school can shove his ass.
And that's uh, really interesting. And I've been definitely more into just making stuff that I enjoy making instead of thinking, is this art or is this not art? If you don't think about whether it's art or not and you just create, it's a lot more fun.
I wonder who those people are who are telling artists that their stuff they're making isn't art. Like, why are you? What is your state of mind that you have to tell someone that that is not art?
But it's also something that we grow up with, right? If you with
Yeah.
your parents and you're painting at home, at
Mm-hmm.
one point it's like, oh, your my child is so happy drawing his cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
and then at another point it becomes like, oh, my child is an artist. So, and we don't really know where's the line. Something that I see a lot of people do. Oh, funny thing. I had this conversation with my mom a while back.
Oh.
A friend of mine started doing art not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
She started to get into art. And
Mm-hmm.
she's been trying out all the new art supplies and all the stuff, and uh, been making really good steps, drawing every day. And my mom was like, oh, look at herself. She is calling herself an artist while she's barely been doing it for 3 weeks. And then I was like, no, mom, that's great. It's great that she's saying that she's an artist, because I do feel like a lot of artists are saying, oh, I'm an art student. I'm still
Oh,
learning.
yeah.
I'm not an artist. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like people should be proud of what they're making and say proudly, I'm an artist, because there's nothing shameful about being an artist. And I was really happy, like for my friend that's getting into art, that she
Mm-hmm.
calls herself an artist.
Good.
And then my mom changed, like she was really thinking about this, and she's like, yeah, actually you're right. And then
But
the next thing, I saw my mother like a couple of weeks after, and then she was talking about someone else and was like, yeah, she is so good in her work, but she keeps calling herself not an artist. And I'm like,
Aw. That is cute. Your mom is cute.
my mom is really good in listening and like thinking about it and changing her view. She's like really good in admitting if she's wrong and thinking
Mm-hmm.
about it. I really respect
Mm-hmm.
her. That's about her. That's like a
That's
good,
amazing.
yeah.
I don't know. I quite understand where her first reaction was coming from. Um, But no, aren't we always, as artists, aren't we always evolving and learning? For example, you can start with watercolors and then suddenly you're trying to learn with gouache.
Hmm.
Then you're still an artist, but you're still learning another medium.
And that's definitely something I had when I got into ceramics, because I am an illustrator, I'm an artist, and then I got into ceramics and I felt like a beginner. So I'm still an artist, but the work that I was making was really beginner.
Hmm.
And I really had this, like, at a certain point, I was like, oh, but I'm also a ceramic artist.
Yeah.
But it was really because you're learning so many new things. I don't think the word artist has anything to do with skill. And if
No,
and I heard people say about being a professional artist that that has to do with skill, but also not really. It has
that's
more
not
to do.
true.
It has more to do with like mindset and dedication than it
Not
has to
only
do.
that,
Yeah,
for me the word professional means nothing more than I get paid to do this. Then you are professional. If you get paid because someone bought a sticker or bought a print, then you are a professional artist because you get paid.
yeah, and even if you don't always get paid, or if you are, for example, you want to work in the industry
Hmm.
and you aren't quite there yet, but you are working towards it and you're training a lot for it, uh, then are you still a professional or are you a student?
Yeah, good question.
I've heard somebody approach it in like, if you have the dedication to get out of your bed and work on your art every day, even though you cannot find a job, you're still a professional artist. But it's, yeah, it's interesting because I do feel like having art as a profession means you need to get paid for it.
Yeah,
I don't get paid a lot for my art, but I still see art as my profession.
yeah.
I and so a lot of people think that I'm getting really rich off my ceramics. Like, people don't know at all what you're earning from your convention table or from your web shop. Like,
Oh my gosh, you told me from your last convention table. My god, it was expensive.
yeah, like the convention table was, to get there was 400 euros. And then over the weekend I sold for like 600, 700 euros. That's a lot of work to get like 300 euros profit, and you don't even have like the bought the things yet. You don't have other costs yet. It's just the convention table. But I don't get paid enough, certainly, to live off my art. But I still really try to see my art as my profession, and I want to be professional and talk to my customers in a professional way. And yeah, I don't know. It's difficult.
It's difficult, especially as a small business owner,
Hmm.
like you and I. We are not the kind of artists who are working for a design company or a
Hmm.
graphic design company, or book publishers need a lot of illustrators for their children's books. We are not employed by these kinds of um, companies, so therefore it's harder for us to feel like a professional artist.
Yeah, when you have to decide everything yourself and you're not actually sure whether you even would get hired for any of those things,
Hmm.
it's really, yeah. I do think that at some point I was feeling confident enough that I would be able to pick up my sketchbook and work for a little while and get some things that I'm happy with. I think that was the point for me, that I was starting to see myself as a professional artist. When I can be fairly sure that I can pick up my sketchbook and make something I'm happy with. And of
Hmm.
course, like, uh, half of the time I still make stuff that I'm not happy with. But that's also okay. That's part of the learning process. You can still make mistakes and be a professional artist.
Of course, but my question is then, like, um, aren't all artists 80% of what they make are not happy with it?
Yeah, that's definitely. Oh, something else that relates to this topic that we haven't really talked about yet. And I look at the timer and I see we don't have a lot of time yet
Ooh.
left. But something that I've been talking about with my partner is that it gets really hard when you're doing art as a profession, and every work that you're making is to sell. Like at one point, it becomes really difficult to say to yourself, okay, today I'm just going to make art for me, or I'm going to make art to practice. Because if you're making art for your business or art to sell to others, then you're making directly money. But
Hmm.
if you're making art to experiment, then you're not making money. But you're still like, it gets really difficult.
It's difficult. If you're talking about art, then yes, you are correct. Um, but if we're talking about, like, for example, me as a maker,
Hmm.
um, no, I do not get paid for all the experiments I do, but I sometimes make little grab bags of all the experiments I have done. So yeah, I do get paid for those experiments. But those experiments, I my goal is not to sell these. My goal is to either have fun mixing pigments, see what happens, and if something good's out of it, maybe I will put it in a collection.
Yeah.
Um, but the pressure of making paints just to sell is quite different than making art just to sell.
Yeah.
For example, you have your moon palettes, and you
Hmm.
know people love your moon palettes. But what if you don't enjoy making them anymore?
Yeah. And then it gets really like, I know that if I sit down and make moon pellets, I'll probably make money, and I need to make money. And then
Yeah,
if I sit down and experiment and see what happens, then there is a pretty high chance that I won't make the same amount, or that I won't make money at all.
yeah,
And when you're doing art as a profession, sometimes that becomes like a hard choice to make. Am I going to make money today, or am I going to experiment and possibly develop as an artist?
yeah.
And that's something I struggle with every day. Do you have something? Do you have a schedule, or do you just?
I don't really have a schedule. I used to have a schedule, but then my son was born,
Mhm.
so out of the window goes the schedule.
Yeah,
But of course, for example, I have my members every month. You get either a half pan of paint or a quarter pan of paint, and every month you get a different paint, and people pay up front.
yeah,
So, for example, it's now March, but they're still getting their paint from February.
yeah,
Um, and I love doing that, but the pressure of thinking about the precious paint I'm gonna pick, and if I pick them, are they gonna like it? Is everybody on board with this color? It's super expensive. Am I even getting profits from this? Because shipping is included. Oh, shipping prices have raised. Oh shit, what I'm gonna do? Every month, it's a reoccurring thing, and I still enjoy doing this, but I enjoy my own experimenting and my collection that I drop whenever
hmm,
I want to, and with the colors whatever I want to. I enjoy that more than my members, but my members make sure they make sure I can pay my bills.
yeah. And of course, it's also like if you're making stuff for your members, you don't want to make something that you've already made before,
Exactly.
and make something really similar to that, even though that might
Yeah.
be something that you enjoy making.
Exactly.
And that
And the
can,
funny
yeah,
thing is, for these membership, I even made you made the rules yourself. Or you get precious paints or vintage or made out of crushed gemstones, single pigments, no mixes. These colors will never, oh, never. These colors won't be available in the shop, so they're super exclusive. Exclusive. So I make all these paints, and I always make extra in case some of the paints I mess up. And then I always have like 5 half pants extra that I cannot put in the shop because that takes away the exclusivity. That takes away the exclusiveness of being a member.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something. And also, if you don't feel like making art, or if you don't really, if you're not enjoying it, you still have to do it. And
Exactly.
that's also like what being an artist as your job is.
Hmm.
And maybe everybody can say something about whether it's still art or not. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's part of the process. Everybody's gonna have parts about what they do that they don't love, and everybody can have an opinion whether about that's art or it's not art. But to be honest, I don't really care.
No, I don't
Maybe
really care
that's the
either.
thing that I take from this talk is if something is art or not. I don't care. I just want to enjoy what I do. And sometimes I don't enjoy it. And then it's just a job. That's also fine.
That is, and I think that's exactly how we should approach it. Like sometimes I see on Instagram, I see artists um, want to do 100%. I only want to do, I only want to do things that I love. And then weeks later, they're kind of struggling because, like everybody else in the world, they gotta pay the bills.
Yeah.
And then they're taking a side job, and then it's like, I have less time for my art. Yeah, and that sucks. But if we're only gonna do exclusively everything that we love to do to make
Hmm.
yourself happy, which is great, I think we have to wait until all artists are super millionaires somehow, and then we have the time in the world to do everything that we just want to do.
Yeah.
But meantime, we gotta pay the bills.
And if your like own mind is, if you're so in your head that you have to be a true artist and you have to make true art, and that's stopping you from creating, because every time you look at your own work and you're like, this is not art, then that can become like really hurtful for your grow as a person and as an artist. So if you're somebody that has been with this in your mind and you haven't created in weeks because you only want to make real art and you don't want to make something that's not art, I think it's best if you just get some pencils and get some paints and
Mm-hmm.
scribble all over an expensive piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Use all the pretty art supplies and make something that's as not art as you can make it.
Yes, and don't feel like you have to post it anywhere. It's just for you.
Yeah, and just try to be kind to yourself, and also if you're not enjoying it, it's okay, but also try to enjoy it. It's really difficult. I've seen a lot of my friends definitely recently struggle with this, and I just want to tell you that it's okay if what you're making, if you don't feel like it's art, you can still make things and enjoy it and have fun with it. And sometimes you make something that you like, and sometimes you make some art on accident, and
I think
sometimes it's
that's
not art. Yeah.
I think that's perfect. Especially the one thing you said about, if you feel like it's not art, then it's not art. Just rip it apart, throw it away, put it somewhere. I don't really care. Just don't let that feeling suck you dry.
Or force your parents to put it on their fridge.
Force your parents to put it on the fridge. Yes, force your parents to put it on the fridge.
Keep telling them that it is art, even though you know it's not art, and then laugh in their
It's
face about it.
beautiful.
That's something that I'm gonna do. My
Me.
father has a card on his fridge, and it says, um, "Is this art or can I throw it away?"
That is so cute. My mom and my dad, we never put up my art anywhere in the house because my mom always said it looked very cluttered. If there's art on the wall
Mhm.
anywhere, it was always neatly packed away in a little folder where nobody could see it.
Oh, I was like when I was really little, I drew like kikkerdrill.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know the English word for this. It's like frog eggs.
yeah. The slimy frog egg. I don't know
This
what's it in English.
slimy
I've
frog
no clue.
eggs. And I drew that, and then I didn't really think about it. I was like 4, and it was a drawing, so it didn't matter to me whether it was art or not. And then my mom was like, "Oh, this is so beautiful." And she
Oh,
was like making all new art pieces based on my frog eggs that I drew.
that is so cute. I once saw someone on Instagram. I think it was TikTok, but it was uploaded on Instagram. Their kid was making drawings of like uh, funny, yeah, creatures. I want to say like purple monkey with a sock on its head and like little monsters, but cute.
Hmm.
And then the dad actually made uh, plushies of based on those drawings.
Oh, that's
It was
so
amazing.
cool.
It was so cool. It's like his image in his child's head that he put on paper. It really came to life. And then he filmed the unboxing and you see the child looking at the plushie and then running to his room, get the drawing out of the wall. It was like, that's him. Oh my god.
And that's amazing because that's a really good example of like pure creation with
Yes.
people that don't care about whether something is like a deep, meaningful art piece or if it's
Hmm.
just like they were like, this is fun, let's do this. And I think that's
And
great.
I think that's great. And that is why it's important that we as grown-ups, somewhere in our upbringing, we lost it.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes just need to go back and just, like you said, scribble with all your art supplies that you have, get some pencils, scribble away, do what makes you happy, let your imagination flow, and don't care if it's art or not. If you had fun, that's good enough.
All right. I think that's quite it. We are recording for about an hour. So let's wrap it up. Anything you want
I
to
had
say?
so much fun. Yes, I had so much fun. And I was wondering the what did you say? Drink and draw, draw and drink?
Yeah, drink and draw.
Drink and draw. Is this something that the people who are listening or watching can join?
No, the drink and draws that I've been doing is just like on location. I guess that if you're in Tilburg or near Tilburg in the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
you can join my Discord. I will leave a link in the description. And in the Discord, we will be doing this like regular meetups in cafes, and we'll be doing spontaneous meetups where
Oh,
people
sounds
can
like
just
fun.
say like, "Hey, tomorrow I'm going to the library. Does anybody want to go with me and draw?" So if you're like from here, then you can join. Uh, I do know there are some drawing groups that are online, but I don't know any of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good idea. If you want to start one, feel free. You can you can do so.
Yeah, great.
All right, we'll wrap it up, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you the next time. And if you have any comments or suggestions, leave them in the comments.
Yes. Bye bye.
Bye bye.